Well, hello friends. As the title is alerting you, this video is about me getting my 62 Pocket Police ready for the range. And I really don't know how much of the work that I'm actually going to record. But I will tell you right off the bat, in my unboxing video, I was correct. There's still cosmoline on this revolver. So what I'm going to do first and foremost, since I've mentioned before I only shoot round ball, and since most of us that are familiar with the Uberti revolvers, the plungers are actually cut and milled and machined for conicals. Since I only shoot round balls, the first thing I'm going to do is fill this with JB Weld. Once it sets, I'll take a round ball and a little bit of sandpaper and just dimple it, because in my opinion, a lot of us that experience balls, loose balls, is that these plungers, if you shoot a round ball and seat the round ball, the plunger actually pulls the ball off of the powder charge. Now for me, that's not a really big issue because I always put a felt wad between my powder charge and my round ball, and when you seat the round ball, and even if the plunger does lift the round ball off the powder charge, that felt wad stays on top of the charge. So that really shouldn't be a problem with creating that little bit of an air gap. So that'll be the first thing that I'm going to tackle, is that. And I'm going to do the easy stuff first. The second thing that I'm going to do, and since I've mentioned it, I only shoot round balls. When I take my dial calipers and measure the opening of these chambers, I get 0.3. Let's see here. Let me do this a little bit better. Right at the tip of it. Let's see here. 370. So 370 with a .380 round ball tells you that I'm going to be shaving quite a bit of lead. So I need to open up these cylinders just a little bit. I've already done one. I've got a .375 reamer, and I can get the reamer actually, and I'm not going deep at all. Maybe a good solid 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch, perhaps. But even at that right now, I am right at .375. So when I go to load a .380 round ball, I'm only shaving off 5/1000ths of a lead, of a ring of lead. And you probably can't pick it up, but that's the cylinder right here that I've already reamed, and it's not much that I'm taking off. So those will be the first two things that I do. And then I'll get into the mechanical part. And I know there's one thing that I also have to do at this point, because when I rotated the cylinder, you can see just a fine scratch between the stops in the cylinder. That's usually the bolt not dropping down far enough, and or the bolt having a pretty much a square edge, and I'm just going to take and break that edge without removing any metal and see if that resolves this issue. But other than just going through and doing what we would normally do, checking for rough edges and things like that, that's what I'm going to do. And if I come across something that maybe I think it's worth mentioning, I'll turn the camera on at that point and I just kind of show you, I guess, show you some of the progress. So I'm going to get started filling the plunger with JB Weld, and then I'm going to get started in reaming these cylinders out. And there again, if you want a more in-depth tutorial, go to Duelist 1959, I think it is, Mike Bellevue. He's got a very in-depth tutorial on what he does to get his revolvers ready for the range, and it's pretty much what I do also. So I'm going to get started, and as I go along, maybe I'll just stop in for a moment or two and show you the progress. Just jumping in real quick, Why is it that every time a person mixes some JB Weld, always mixes way too much? That's always been my experience. But one thing that I am glad to experience with this particular revolver, a lot of times when we buy used black powder guns, the previous owner is not as cautious about protecting the threads on the cone. Now I know, some of the other black powder shooters say, well, I only take them out every once in a while or something like that. But you go back on other black powder channels and look at their content. Some of them have a very difficult time taking out those cones from used revolvers. And there again, I'm very, very pleased to have learned that this is actually a brand new gun and not something that was used. So I just wanted to jump in and mention that as I take the cones out, because I'm getting ready to ream the rest of the cylinders out to .375 and then clean it up. I will use a dowel and just kind of clean up the cylinder in here, the pin where the pin rides, and just make sure that that remains smooth. So that's what I'm working on now, and I'll jump back in just a moment or two for you. For me, it might be several minutes, maybe an hour, who knows? But for you, it'll be just a moment. Okay, so just thinking ahead a little bit, I decided to measure the Uberti cones, and they have a total height of .497. With the Track of the Wolf cones, I have a .485. So the Track of the Wolf cones are shorter than the factory Uberti cones, and there again, the holes, the touch hole in the Uberti stainless steel cones is smaller. Now most of us know that when it comes to these Uberti guns, that there is a problem with spring tension, which allows some of that blowback and the cap sucking. That's something that I'm going to have to probably resolve, and I might be ahead of the curve to do what Blackie Thomas suggests, where the spring screws to the internal frame here, just file that down to raise the spring up just a little bit to maintain some pressure, preventing the hammer from coming back just that much, because that's really all it takes. And of course I will be working on the face of the hammer and polishing that up and rounding off these two little, the bottom of the slot here, where the slot sits on those pins so that you can safely carry 5. But there again, that's something that I'm going to have to work out as I get to that point. So now I'm to the point where I'm going to go ahead and start reaming the cylinder out. And I'm just going to do that by hand. And once again, you can go back in this channel, and I showed you how I did that when it came to my 61 Navy and my 58 Remington Navy. All I'm using is just hand pressure. Couple of quick turns, clean the pieces off, and right here, just go back in at it. That's all I'm doing. Just doing it by hand, and I'm going down maybe at this point 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to when I get done cleaning the oil off it, then I'll go back through and mic it and see if I get all of them at an even 0.375. Okay, so to ensure that all my round ball is sitting at the same depth, I have it at the corner of the table. The bottom of the table is flat, and this part is setting flat. If you do it by hand, you might be tilting it a little bit like this. So I have it flat, and whatever the total length is, the total height, I'm able to spin all of these through and not have a problem with it. So right now, I am at, well, the height of the table, got to take that into consideration. But if you get rid of the height of the table, I'm right at 0.063. So all of these round ball just sitting loosely on top are all at the same depth or the same starting point. So that's good for me as far as that's concerned. I don't think it's going to shave off a whole lot of lead. I'm hoping that it'll just swage into the cylinder, but I'll find that out when I get it out to the shooting range when I get ready to shoot it. But that's where I'm at right now, and that's how I check to make sure that my depth of cutting these were consistent, and they are. Okay, I'm pretty sure the camera can pick up that. That black spot would be the test firing of this revolver, and if you can look real close, you can still see some of the cosmoline, the packing oils and stuff that's still on the underside of this guard. And also when I pulled the grip section off, right through here on the brass, there was a bunch of it. So that would just confirm even further that this gun was brand spanking new. So I'm going to continue cleaning up. I had the spring off, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of like clean up the edges. There's not really any sharp edges on it, except for right up on the very top. So I'm going to smooth that out, and I guess jump back in when I need to jump in. Alright, the inside of the frame, the machining is looking really good. There is some scratch marks right here on the arbor and on the other side, but I'm going to plan on smoothing them out. But the hand is very, very rough. Got some really good sharp edges and some burrs on it. And also, this is the hammer screw. If you guys can see right in through here, very, very, very rough. And it almost looks like when they threaded it, you can see the threads, that they tried to thread right in through there. And I don't know if they went, oh, oops, or whatever, but it seems to me like when they went to blue this, they would have caught that. And when I was cocking the gun real slow the other day, I could actually feel some sort of drag, and I'll bet that that's part of the problem, along with the hand that rotates the cylinder. And the trigger bolt spring, it's got a few rough edges on it, but for the most part it's pretty good. But other than that, so far everything is looking fairly good. Okay, if you find yourself having to do some of this work and you don't want to invest in all of the other stones and things like that, for instance, getting into the hand channel right here to clean that out, to smooth that out, maybe deburr it. Like me, I just go to Plant 13B, popsicle stick, whittle down, and it fits right up in there. So I'm going to wrap this with 600 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to just go polish the inside of this. Okay, something else that I would like to point out is when it comes to these U-birdies, a lot of people talk about these arbor pins, and the hole that the arbor pin goes into is drilled a little bit too deep, and when you put everything together, you find that this portion of the barrel hits onto the frame, whereas it should be just sliding right into the frame at the end of the, the hole for the arbor pin. Well, this particular revolver, I was pleasantly surprised when I put it together, and I do what everybody does and to test it. It's mating up perfectly. I don't know how well everybody can see that. So it appears to me that on this particular revolver, you birdie got it right. Back to polishing. Well, other than the plunger, I've got the revolver back together. All of the rough edges are smoothed out. But one thing that I do want to point out, I know a lot of us talk about this from time to time, is at full cock, how much more travel is left on the hammer. And on a lot of these replicas, there's actually quite a bit. And I want you guys to note this one. Let me put it over here and just note very little travel. So it looks to me when they cut the slots in the hammer, not only for the half cock but also for the full cock, it's just about right there because there's very little travel left. So get it out to the shooting range soon and we'll see how she shoots. And also just one other thing that I did do, I did open up the rear sight just a little bit for my waning eyes. Now I can kind of see everything through the sight. So stay tuned for the shooting video. Thanks for watching. Bye.